get that sucker ready to go. But we're not pressing the button yet because we're giving away, aren't we, little buddy? Yeah. Oh, you're a little scratchy dog. All right. So we're going to wait a moment before we jump on here and click the whatchamajigger to give everybody a chance to watch their little commercial or whatever and make Houston that sweet, sweet penny. Man. All right. And here we go. Woohoo. All right. Intro's off. Ha. Welcome to Houston. We have a problem. Today's not a super crazy news day all over. The only big thing that's really happening in the news at the moment is that apparently the Russian invasion force is plotting its way into Ukraine. Again, cell phones are giving away the surprise attack because Russian soldiers have their phones in their pockets with geolocation on, and you can go to Google Maps and look at traffic, and you can see that the invasion force is causing a traffic jam at 4 o'clock in the morning out in the middle of nowhere. Oops. In honor of the news today, I am wearing my Slavic Tea Room print shirt because I don't know what else to do. But anyway, it's after dark. It's February 23rd, 2022, show 112. The market continued to do a big old red dive, but we had three weird pops from the meme stocks. CEI just before close, and then after close, Root and CLOV all like shot up like 40%. It's pretty wild. So what's going on there? Why are those ones blinking and the other ones aren't? Could be the hypothesis that shorts are trying to close out smaller stocks and OTCs, small cap stocks and OTCs before they have to deal with anything else. That by closing those guys out first, that gives them more room on their margin. We'll see. I don't know. Outside that, I don't think Monkey Butt had anything to talk about. I don't have anything to talk about, so I'm just going to go right to your questions right off the bat there. Just in my head, super chats. Thanks for the show, HW. I always leave smarter. Is there a precedent for the past market crashes triggering squeezes 1929, 1987, 1997, 2008? If so, why? Okay, that's a lot. Come on, thing work. Okay, so 1929 was essentially a overinflated market that got hit with a construction slowdown at the end of fall, and banks had taken so much of people's money, and instead of putting it into like home loans and business loans and things like that, they took it and they played the market with it. And so the market was completely over leveraged. And when people needed their money back, it didn't exist. And banks were forced to sell to get cash out, and cash got pulled out of banks, so banks collapsed. And it just spiraled from there. And there was a lot of Ponzi schemes. There was a lot of naked selling of shares. There was lots of things that were going on that were heavily unregulated. 87 was Black Tuesday, one of those days. And that was apparently a computer glitch that caused everything to go bonkers, and a rapid selling happened. 1997 was a combination of the Asian economic crisis and an economic crisis in Latin America. The economies collapsed in Indonesia, in Argentina, Brazil, and even the Scandinavian countries had a bit of a rough go in 97. And that was for lots of reasons. I mean, in Indonesia, you had a completely corrupt government in Suharto. Argentina was still coming out of like authoritarianism and didn't quite know how to handle global economy that way. Oil prices were really depressed. I mean, 97, 98, it's like $10 a barrel for oil. You're paying 87 cents at the gas station for a gallon of fuel. In 2008 was unregulated securities in the housing market. So it usually has to do with poor regulation that allows some sort of like there's that little loophole, and then everything starts forcing itself through that loophole, making a giant bubble on the other end, and the bubble goes pop, and then that's where everyone's money just disappears. And that's kind of where we are. And one of the terrible things is that we learn our lesson and we regulate something. And it goes well for like 40 years. And then someone comes along and says, why do we even need this regulation anymore? Everything's been going so well. We should just get rid of that regulation. And then they get rid of that regulation, and then shit's the fan again. 2008, one of the big problems was we had a problem where low-income families who could afford to buy a home couldn't get approval to buy a home. And one way to get them to do that was to give them these higher risk adjustable rate mortgages. And so Bill Clinton, in I think it was 1999 or 2000, he pushed through a law that allowed up to 5% of the market to be these subprime mortgages. And it was supposed to be for these lower income folks who had traditionally been sort of kept away from being homeowners, to allow them to become homeowners and build equity and things like that. And these loans are risky. They start out usually for 2 years with really low interest rates, and then after 2 years, the interest rate balloons incredibly and becomes tied to whatever the market rates are for such loans. And so, for 2 years, they've got really low mortgage payments, and then all of a sudden, after 2 years, if they don't manage to refinance in that time or sell or whatever, their payments can balloon to 2 or 3, 4 times what they were paying before. In 2004, George Bush pushed that 5% of the market of adjustable rate mortgages to 20% of the market. So 1 in 5 homes sold could be adjustable rate mortgages. And that caused an explosion because it caused really, really easy access for folks to take out giant loans they couldn't necessarily afford in the long term, but they could in the short term. So imagine you own a landscaping company. You and your family make $60,000 a year. You see a home pop up for sale that's $1 million, $750,000, somewhere in that range. You cannot afford that home, but with an adjustable rate mortgage, with subprime mortgage, you can afford the first 2 years of the mortgage, of those payments. So you go to your bank and you say, hey, give me a loan for that house. I want to buy that house. And the bank says, we can't afford that. I'm like, give me an adjustable rate mortgage. And I'm like, all right. So they give you an adjustable rate mortgage. You sign it. And your goal is to flip that home because in a year it should be worth 15, 20% more than it is now because that's the housing market was going. And then in 2006, George Bush got rid of all the regulations on adjustable rate mortgages. It went from 5% of the market to 20% of the market. And in 2006, he got rid of it, and it could be 100% of the market if you wanted. So all of a sudden, a lot of people who qualified for better loans than these adjustable rate mortgages were suddenly told by their bankers, like, hey, we could put you in this 3% loan over 30 years, or get this, I'll give you a subprime mortgage and your payments will be $700 a month for 2 years. And they're like, okay, let's do that. Not realizing that there's going to be these giant balloon payments starting in 2 years. And so if you weren't in the market of just flipping a house, you could get saddled with giant mortgages you couldn't afford and you get foreclosed on. So a lot of these families who were kind of left holding the bag, all of a sudden saw their homes be massively underwater as foreclosures swept the entire nation. And the house flippers were stuck with 20 homes they couldn't sell, and they all went bankrupt, and the bank seized everything and had to sell everything at once, and the housing market just crashed. So, and the reason why the banks pushed these subprime mortgages so much was that, A, they had a huge payout in the end on paper. Like, oh, this person can be paying 9-10% in 2 years. So this loan that I gave for $500,000 is going to be worth $2 million down the road. And B, they would package those loans up and sell them to pensions and investment groups. Be like, hey, so these mortgages are backed, they're AAA rated, they're cool, they're fine, and pension funds always want stable investments, and so buying in bonds and mortgages have always been a pretty good way to keep a growth rate going. And then all of a sudden, a good chunk, 20% of the mortgages inside those baskets, those securities, blew up and all of a sudden weren't worth shit. And, if you have a bunch of decent loans that are making 2-3% interest as they're going along, and you have a bunch of giant loans where all the profit's supposed to be blow up, and you lose millions on like every single solitary loan. That wipes out all the profit you would have for those other 80 mortgages in there. And that's a big reason why '08 just brought everything down. People were they're using mortgage credit for everything, for buying cars and paying for school and improvements on their houses. And they take second mortgages on a home to buy another home to flip. And then when they have 10 homes they're trying to flip, and it just kind of spiraled out of control there. Okay, man, right off the bat, I'm probably already way behind the chat already. Okay. 7 cents, about to sleep. Sorry, my man. Okay. Always on. Houston, what congressman did hedge funds steal money from that got DOJ investigating? It certainly wasn't because they were stealing blue-collar money, right? Probably. Or, their congressman's best friend's golf buddy or whatever. Remember, to join a hedge fund, you have to have $1 million minimum for like the weakest intro to a hedge fund. There's some hedge funds like Melvin which only take billionaires. And so you have to invest hundreds of millions of dollars to become a member of that hedge fund. And we saw the articles. By last March, Melvin had lost Michael Jordan $500 million. Oops. Right? And I don't think Melvin's made Michael Jordan that money back, because they're still losing money. So, there's a lot of rich folks who have lost a lot of money recently, I think. J-Dog says, James Webb Telescope getting ready for some serious action. It's coming. I think first light is technically supposed to be in May. So still got a few months, unless they manage to go much faster than that. Pankaj Kumar. Hi, Houston. Post-MOAS and the housing market collapse, how would we know which house is auctioned by which bank? Is there any website to track it? The best big website I can take you to is just auction.com. Of course, I can't spell them to save my life. Auction.com. They do a pretty decent job. They list a lot of stuff that's being foreclosed ahead of time. Otherwise, you're going to have to look in your local paper. In your local newspaper, and you probably won't be able to find it in online classifieds and stuff, but literally in your local paper, when you look in the classified section, there'll be like a miscellaneous or public postings, and in that section are the lists for various homes that will sell like that week on like the county courthouse steps. Some of those foreclosures are required by law to put them in those ads. So like if we search like where I live, Kitsap County, Washington, it lists all these properties that are in Kitsap County. If the internet can pick up its pace here, maybe the Russians are DDoS attacking auction.com. But you'll see you've got homes like this, 1713 Park Avenue. Its current retail value is $557,000, and what is left to either be paid on the bank or in taxes or whatever is $31,000. So that's what the opening bid is going to be. And you have to have cash, and you have to be able to pay like that afternoon. So if this one may be online or it may be on courthouse steps, remote bid, so it's going to be online. It's pretty overgrown there. I mean, this house at the end at the collapse of the economy in 08-09, this house had been $60,000. This thing is ridiculous how much it's going for now. So let's see here. Occupied, does it say which bank? Nope, they're gonna do it in the courthouse steps. That's where they're gonna be doing that. So cash only, yes. Broker op, cleared for auction, not yet. So this if the buyer can pay off whatever they owe in taxes or whatever it is, the back mortgage, this thing can still be pulled from the market. So it's set up for, what's the date on this one? I missed the date. Date. When's the date set for? Oh, March 4th. So not this Friday, but the following Friday at 9 a.m. This is a great website to look at. Another one that I do is bidforassets.com. Bidforassets.com has got the contract for a lot of county sales. You can click on various states and see what properties they have. A lot of them are just shitty properties that no one wants to buy. Like they're, weird sidewalk easements that got foreclosed on or whatever. But you can go to the county tax sales, and they'll list in most of the county tax sales they do are in the western United States. They got a few now popping up for the eastern U.S., but they'll have this the desert in California gives a crap. Monterey County, you will have some fancy properties in Monterey County that might be getting foreclosed on. Merced County, Shasta County might get some cabins. In March, there's a lot more. Pierce County has good property, especially in Gig Harbor. Mason County around Olympia. Mason's north of that. Alameda County, Bay Area. Boom. Lots of big, fancy places we can go up for auction here. But if we click on, let's do, where's Santa Cruz County? There's a fancy one. Santa Cruz County there. We can scroll down and they'll have auction folders, all these guys. And these are the APNs, the parcel numbers from the assessor parcel numbers. And they list them in order. And so you can just kind of click on them and open them. And you'll have all these properties here. There's no current bid, and some of them don't even have an opening bid yet. So maybe we should go to one that's this month. Let's go to one that's this month. Come on. Let's go Monterey County, February 12th, 16th. This one's over with already. A lot of the properties probably got taken off because people paid in the last minute. They get a new loan or whatever. But here we go. Property sold for $255. Oh, a lot of these sold. This one here closed. That's because somebody paid off the $13,700 in debt that was there and it didn't get auctioned. My guess is properties like this one is probably a pretty nice house. Minimum bid was $87,000, so that's what was left on there. Let's look at what kind of house this was that this person picked up for $600,000. I bet it's probably pretty decent. Oh, it's just a huge piece of land. That's where we are. Okay. All right. So, 17 acres. So they got 18 acres in Monterey County for $600,000. Whoo! That's a multi-million-dollar just chunk of land right there. Those are the goals. If you can find a huge piece of property, like a few years ago, there was like a 300-acre Napa Valley vineyard that was just land, no buildings on it, and it sold for like $100,000 on here. You got yourself like a $20 million piece of property, without having to like worry about maintenance or anything. It's just a field. So that's pretty nice. Let's see. Let's look at it in Google Earth. One sec. Let's see actually what it looks like. Sometimes Zillow doesn't list the property, but Google Earth will take you exactly which one it is. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. We are down and we're definitely in farm country. Nice canyon. Okay. We're in this canyon here. So 17 acres in this canyon. Treed, probably have water. It's a pretty nice spot. Not too shabby. All right. Which town is this? Soledad. Right by Soledad. Okay. Not too shabby. All right. But Bid for Assets is all online only. You usually have to put a big deposit in if you want to bid. They might ask you for like a $5,000 refundable deposit just so you can like prove that you can purchase stuff. And you have to be able to pay by that like wire transfer that afternoon. So you cannot bid unless you have the cash available. All these auctions, like if you do the courthouse step auction, by 3 p.m. or something, you need to cut them a cashier's check for whatever the amount is. So you have to be like with your bank, ready to go. You can't do mortgages on this stuff. You have to have the cash available. So Post MOAS is a great way to pick up really cheap properties. I mean, the Alameda County one that will be coming up here, there will be incredible houses. That's like where Oakland is. Berkeley in there. Is Lawrence Livermore also? Excuse me, I had a burrito earlier. Burpee. So there'll be good ones in Alameda for sure. Oh yeah, there's tons of places in here. So I'm just gonna randomly click one here. Half of them will also probably be garbage lots that are $12,000, probably empty lot, panoramic way, not applicable. So my guess is this is probably a steep lot you can't build on. Click on another one. I wish they'd put the starting price in these things already. That's another one. Another same. Okay, different. It's probably a whole group of properties that are all right next to each other. So 48H, 137, 136, 132. Yeah, these are all properties that are right next to each other that are probably all unbuildable. So let's go there. What do you have to say for yourself? All right, this is $555,000. This is probably a decent sized piece of property or has a building on it. This is in Oakland. Doink. Let's go to here and see if we can get out of my way. I'm going to go bink, bink, and a bink. Okay, so it's a studio apartment in Oakland. Got washer and dryer. You got anything else to say about it? Not much else. Just call Camille. All right, it's a studio apartment. Units. Reveal. I don't know. It looks like it's in a condo complex. So maybe Camille is behind on all of her rent there. But yeah, so it's great, fantastic way to do it. In most of these counties, they only have their auctions come up once a year. Like King County, where Seattle is, happens usually in December or so. They might do a second auction like 6 months later. There'll be properties that people bid on and then they never actually give them the money. So they got 30 properties they still have to auction off. Los Angeles is usually in the winter. Bay Area counties are like March and April. What other ones? They had the county of Hawaii in here a couple years ago, but I haven't seen that one pop up again. But these are all great ways, and I've talked about this long enough, probably. All right, DEA got that dope. I think one of Kenny's clients was really upset when he was met with a huge fee for withdrawal and called one of his golf buddies from the DOJ to take action. I think you might be right on that. Yeah, you don't mess with rich guys' money. They're rich for a reason, and it's because they are ruthless and monsters. And while Kenny may have the house in the same cul-de-sac at Breckenridge as the guy whose money he took and will give back, that guy whose money he took, that golf buddy status, that our kids are on the same select soccer team stuff, that only goes so far before they're like, give me my money. I'm going to give you cement shoes if you don't give me my money. Rich people did not get rich by being kind and gentle. That's for sure. Yeah. Okay. Of course you just reset again, you jerk. Okay. Houston, how much do you think the MMTLP dividend will be, and what happens to those shares after the dividend? The shares cease to exist. So the MMTLP becomes Oilco. Oilco sells all the lands, the oil lands they own, and then they take that cash and they give you the cash and delete the shares from existence. That's what happens. How much it will be? My best guess is hopefully $20, and really hopefully beyond that per share as a special dividend. And that's what I'm holding out hope for. I mean, when I originally bought in last year, it was because I was hoping to get like $1 or $2. So anything past $1 or $2, I'm happy. But I'm really hoping that it's much higher than that. Okay. Brandon T. Houston, if post-MOAS there is lots of printing by the Fed, then wouldn't worse inflation follow? Could this be why BlackRock is buying property, lock money in tangible assets before inflation? Possibly. That and land is always just a good thing to invest in because, despite when there's housing crashes, the value goes up 10-15% a year over year. And that's a pretty solid investment. And if worse comes to worse, you just hold on to that property through a crash and then it bounces right back a couple years later. There is a possibility for more inflation. But you have to remember, the big inflation we have now is not because you and me got too much money. It's because huge banks and investment firms and rich people got too much money, and they don't know what to do with it. When rich people have too much money, they have to stick it somewhere for it to hold value or gain value. And so they dump it into the markets, they dump it into properties, they dump it into crypto, they dump it into securities, they dump it into bonds, they put it wherever they can, and because they do that, it inflates the prices on all these things and makes for a giant bubble in the prices. When you and I get like $2,000, we get our car fixed, we buy the fancy groceries and not the off-brand stuff. We, get our kids' teeth fixed. We get the dog the surgery that they needed. We do those things. When rich people get, 20 million extra dollars, they don't take an extra vacation. They don't buy another car. They take that money and they put it into a hole, and that hole, it sits there forever and just makes them more money. So there's a reason why inflation is hitting hard, and it's not because the average American got too much money. When MOAS happens and the Fed is forced to print to bail out these banks, the banks won't be keeping that money. The banks will just be the funnel by which to get that money to you and me. So finally, people other than the already rich people will be getting like some cheddar, and there'll be 7-10 million of us worldwide that will be benefiting from that. I hope that everyone gets solid savings and does their investments, but I also hope that they spread the love, right? If you get $100 million out of this, $1 billion out of this, don't become one of these assholes that we've been fighting the entire time. Like, I know some people will be corrupted. I know some people are in it just for the money, but do some good with it, man. Do some good with it. But, a lot of folks will be hurting because there will definitely be a credit squeeze. Housing market will collapse. Commercial real estate market will collapse. There'll be a lot of folks out of work, out of money. And so when that happens, whenever the economy does a big old collapse, oil prices collapse with it. So one of the biggest telltales for inflation it will be the fact that oil will have dropped in value, and people don't buy cars. They don't buy new cars. They don't buy used cars. They can't get approved for home loans, so home prices drop. So all the inflation index stuff will drop with it. And the things that may have issues are food and supply chain still, because we still have a lot of supply chain issues going on. Cameron Mirza, what's your opinion on Ryan Cohen's green shorts text and about overstock blockchain T+0 market they have created? Yes. Okay. So Ryan, if you look at his last few tweets, they are shorts emoji, the Jolly Roger pirate flag, and a skull and a skull. And I think the best interpretation is shorts are dead. I think that's it. And then also I think he took a dig at AMC, where he said calling popcorn stock shit. So, sorry, AMC folks. And then the overstock blockchain thing, there was an announcement that William Morgan sent me earlier. I saw him at the top of the chat about the New York Stock Exchange saying they're ready for T+0 for a blockchain market. Let's see if I think I retweeted it. Where would it be if I retweeted it? Click on my face. Gotta go down. There's that one. There's that one. There's that one. Here we go. Oh, Fox Business. Sorry, Fox Business. Doink. So New York Stock Exchange parent company makes push into blockchain. They're looking to make to go to T+0. So basically have a ledger that just swaps the money in the shares and it does it like that. And T+0, if you have a ledger, will make it extremely hard for naked shorting to happen. Supposedly. We'll see what kind of weird tricks the DTC has up their sleeves. Mark Cahodes is one talking about this apparently. Yeah, T0 partner with Box Digital Markets, and they want to do the Boston security tokens. This is the blockchain answer, and we'll see if it gets adopted. Yeah, so that would be summertime, second or third quarter. Probably by summer, they hope to be launching that and going to T+0. And if, that exchange builds, then the other exchanges may have to follow suit, because don't you hate it? Like, I need cash. So you sell your stocks, and you're like, okay, I'm going to take this cash, put it in my bank. Oh, I can't. I got to wait like 2 days for this thing to settle. It's a pain in the ass. So I think this will allow a lot more actual liquidity pushing through the market, because people will be able to take money in and out at will. And I'm all for it, baby. Let's do that. Let's get it done. Okay. Hey, Houston, I've heard a lot of talk about credit unions versus banks lately, and I'm wondering your thoughts on the advantages, disadvantages to a credit union post-MOAS. Is money much more secure? Well, for one thing, the credit unions aren't going to slap you with all sorts of crazy fees and fines and overdrafts and, minimum account balance problems and all that stuff. And you will probably get a slightly higher interest rate in your accounts than you will with a bank. They're both insured. Banks are insured by the FDIC, the Federal Depository Insurance Corporation. And then your deposits with a credit union are insured by the NCUA, the National Credit Union Association? Administration, NCUA, and they say they insure accounts for the same amount. Credit unions don't get gobbled up by their neighbors. They're owned by the folks who are members of the credit union. A lot of credit unions started as like employee credit unions or union credit unions. So like if you were a member of the Boeing workforce or a family member of a Boeing workforce, you could join the Boeing Employees Credit Union. Now anyone can join Boeing Credit Union. Or maybe, like the Washington Education Association credit unions. If you're a teacher working in the schools, you would be able to join a credit union like that. And then some credit unions are just community ones. Like you might have one that's like the Seattle Credit Union, and it's just people who live in Seattle can join that one. And it's an answer to banks, and they're just as stable as anything else. You just won't have to worry about being gobbled up by some asshole bank. So if you are with Bank of America or with Umpqua or with Wells Fargo, there's a chance that when the economy takes shit, your bank gets foreclosed on by the FDIC, gets seized by the government, and then they take all those assets and they auction it off, or they just sell it to another bank like Chase Manhattan for pennies. And all of a sudden, even though you don't want to be, you are suddenly find yourself as a Chase Manhattan customer. And you go, oh man, I don't want to be with Jerry Demon. So that's the issues with banks right there. They're insured. As long as your account has less than what the insurance policy is, you're fine. You may have to seek outside insurance for anything more than that. But if you got more than $500,000 cash in account, you're just losing money, because you're only going to make like 0.1% in interest when you can take that money and stick it anywhere else and make more. Michael Steegs. Recently, I bought metamaterials. Any idea how many synthetics there are? Well, the reported short interest, the most recent one I saw last week was between like 22 and 27% reported short interest. But they didn't include angel investors as insiders. So Innova Corp is the VC that's owned by Nova Scotia, the province of Nova Scotia, that provided seed funding and angel investing to metamaterials to get them started, and they own a huge portion of the company. And for some reason, FINRA and Ortex, they aren't considering those guys as insiders, even though their people are on the board at metamaterials. So they're insiders all the way. And once you count those VCs as insiders in this, all of a sudden the reported short interest is like 60%. And that doesn't account naked shorts or anything that was short on Torchlight before they got merged, which could be in the billions of shares. My guess is always add a 0 or more to the reported short interest. I mean, 15 years ago, if you said a company had 27% short interest, everyone would freak out and be like, oh, Volkswagen. And today we're, everything has 27% short interest, which is why all these hedge funds are so screwed when the shit finally hits the fan. Cameron Mirza, what's your opinion on the truckers' run to Washington? Was Canada a test run? Also, how much did you raise yesterday? I don't know how much I raised. I raised $1,000 in that range. I know that. I have to go. My channel. This was yesterday's. Turn that off. Okay. We are at. Where's the donation button? $1,063 is what we raised yesterday. So if you guys want to click on the link and go donate some more, you're welcome to do that. I'll just throw it in here so that we can raise more money for Humane Society if needed. Bing, bing. Go donate some more. The private question was the truckers. Apparently, the trucker convoy left Scranton, Pennsylvania, and there was one truck and like a pickup and a couple of cars that followed him to DC. And now he's stuck in traffic. He doesn't know where he's going in DC, and he's like doing loops on the ring road because he doesn't know where he is. That's the last update I saw on Twitter. I don't know if other convoys are going anywhere, but the one out of Pennsylvania was just one truck. Oops. I'm sure more will show up eventually, but unlike Canada, if you're a trucker in the United States and you get fired from your job for joining one of these protests, you're going to lose your health insurance. So I think the Canadians have a little bit more leeway to go with their protests because they're going to have health insurance regardless. But losing your health insurance is a big deal to Americans, and I think a lot of folks just can't afford to do that. So, especially during a pandemic. But yeah. Maybe we raised over $1,000. Woohoo! $1,063. Feel free to go back in there and donate some more if you want. Rambo, First Blood, Part 2, the novelization. occupied territories of Georgia, same like Ukraine. Pretty much. When Russia invaded Georgia, they recognized breakaway republics as independent states along the border with Russia, and then they invaded as peacekeepers, and that's how they went to war in Georgia. A guy I know, neighbor of mine just down the road, he had this big deal lined up with an airport in Georgia where they were going to have this big maintenance facility to like work on Boeing aircraft that were in that part of Europe and Asia, and it's going to be like a maintenance stop. And they had this huge deal going through, and then Putin invaded and blew everything up, and he's like, I just lost like millions of dollars on this investment because the airport is now useless, and the hangar where the facilities were going to be is just like crater. Poor guy. But anyway, but you look at the language of the announcement of sending in peacekeepers in 2008 that the Kremlin released, and the announcement yesterday that the Kremlin released about Ukraine. They are the exact same document, just with Ukraine and Georgia swapped, basically. It's the same pretext. It's what they've done before, and they'll do it again, and hope that everyone has a short memory. But they are violating the Minsk Accords, which established the borders of the former Soviet republics, and it's not the Kremlin's role to carve out independent states out of other countries. If that were the role of these of invading armies, then why was Kurdistan never made into an independent country? It's still part of Iraq. It's still part of Iran. It's still part of Turkey. It's still part of Syria. We did not carve that stuff out. So I think right now, I'm sure if you're looking on Twitter, there's probably more updates as to where the Russian tanks are, according to the Google Maps traffic jam that's popping up on there. But yeah, it's a similar situation. It's what Russia does, and they're going to do it to every one of those states that is not a member of NATO. Tristan Cates, Houston, will you ever do a video with Short the Vix again? Have a good GME AMC video. Thank you. Totally. I love that guy. Short the Vix. If you want to do a video, let's do it. I've been pretty crappy about trying to get these collabs done. I need to get back to people and have them get to me too as well. We gotta do that. All right. Enric, Houston, what is your take on Spy? Will do tomorrow. It's at 4:18 after hours. Let's look at Spy. Let's do a quick little phone look. I got the Spy right now. Ooh, it's down 2+%, and right towards the end there, it took an even bigger drop. I think Spy might still be going down. I don't think it's going to go down quickly until we get an announcement as to interest rates, which they might not do until next month, which is only a week away. Oh, throat's so dry. There we go. So I think it's going to be like that steady bear market, and then we'll have a big old drop once they announce interest rate rises, and that should make people go, ah. So we'll see. Or, if bombs start dropping in places outside of the breakaway regions in Ukraine, that could also be a signal for people to sell and panic. I don't know. Well, it's going to be going lower, I think. Email address. Everyone should get ad blocker by now. I know. I should get ad blocker. All right. Jonathan K. If you could choose any superpower but had to only eat Hot Pockets pepperoni flavor, would you? What would your superpower be? I mean, if I'm going to be stuck eating pepperoni Hot Pockets, it's going to be an iron stomach. Like, I don't think any superpower in the world will be worth the acid reflux that I'll be suffering with for the rest of my life as a result of that. Yeah, I want like a really strong iron esophagus and iron gut to handle. That's my superpower. It's the only way I'd be able to handle that. Hoshi Gaming, thoughts on the marble being old continents that are continents will be swallowed to magma and new continents will be made with tectonics as the old ones disappear. That happens. No, the old ones get larger in general. Only a little bit of them kind of get shaved off from moving, but in general they get larger. And when you take oceanic rock, basalt, which is like 48 to 50% silica content, and you pull it down under a continental rock, and it melts with a whole bunch of seawater in there. That seawater under pressure takes out a whole bunch of silica, and that carries it up higher into the lithosphere, higher up into the continent, where it solidifies out and it forms granite. So you all of a sudden you process that 50% silica rock into like 70% silica rock, and that's the continental rock. That's granite. That's the stuff that the continents are built on. So every time oceanic rock gets recycled, it makes larger continents in the end. If I were to look on the Google Earth, I gotta turn on Google Earth. My Steam Deck, I think my USB port died, so my Steam Deck isn't working at the moment. Stream Deck. Okay, so if we go to Google Earth and we look at, pull out, so here's the United States. Basically, if I were to draw, can I do the draw thing on here? Okay, so we go kind of like, oops, like that. Oops, no. And I want to go at the, nope, I want to go like there, and Jesus. Okay, that's all. That'll have to be, yeah, something like that. So the Craton is this big old block of rock here, and this was sort of like the first proto-continent to appear. And everything else sort of started glomming onto that. So if you have a continent like, wait, where'd that clicker thing go? I turn you off. Go away. How do I delete you? No, don't. No, stop. Go away. Go, delete. Go away. I made you. No, I don't know how to get you to go away. Can I escape? Fuck, I just want to move map. Okay, if I click on a different one. I thought I meant to do it all. There we go. And I can move things. Okay. All right. So we have the spreading ridge in the Atlantic. This guy here. This is where the conveyor belt comes out and pumps out new oceanic rock from the mantle, and it sort of moves the continents away from each other. So Africa's moving to the east, North America's moving to the west. And as it moves west, it gobbles up the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean plate dives underneath because it's denser and heavier, makes magma, and that makes the Cascade volcanic range. So as this stuff gets gobbled up, what happens is you can see these like little bumps and these little tiny little mountains that are in the oceanic rock. Those things get scraped off by the continent in a similar fashion to like a squeegee on a windshield, just taking grime off. And what happens is you get these coastal range mountains. So you have the California Alps down here, the coastal range in Oregon, Washington, the Olympic Mountains, and the mountains of Vancouver Island. Those all formed by basically scraping off the Pacific plate itself and then leaving that schmudge, it's called an accretion prism, on the side, and that just builds up mountains over time. And we're just cleaning the surface of the Pacific plate and Juan-de-Fuca plate here, making these mountain ranges that you can see. And that's another way you build continents, is that you have the granite rock that pumps up from the reheated rock from the oceanic plates, and you have these accretion prisms of stuff that get glommed on there. And some of the accretion prisms were really weird. Like Vancouver Island itself came from a piece of plate that was actually off the coast of South America at one time. It somehow moved up an ancient plate, turned around, flipped upside down, and smacked into Canada. So there's very weird actions that have happened over the years as these plates moved around and did weird things. And when you get oceanic islands, like Hawaii smacks into Kamchatka, that gets recycled and turned into the volcanic range in Kamchatka. You've got island arcs here making proto-continents. So island arc volcanoes, those kind of make proto-continents as they move along. And you get weird things like, normally out here in the Pacific Ocean, if you have a volcanic range, there's not much mineralization. It's just basalt, and that's about it. But in places like Fiji, Fiji here is a proto-continent. This is where two oceanic plates are hitting, and they're making volcanics happen. And one of the oceanic plates dives underneath, heats, and then makes granite-ish like rock, silicon-rich rock. And so in Fiji, you actually have gold mines that you won't have in other Pacific islands. There's actually really major gold mines in Fiji as a result of all the mineralization that happens from that recycled rock. It gets processed into more granitic rock as it goes along. And you don't have metals like that in other islands throughout the Pacific because they're all basalt usually. Oh, that's how I close it. Okay. And I go back to Big Houston. Bing. There we are. All right. Hope I answered some questions. I don't know. All right. Sebastian Torres. Houston, I love the show and appreciate all the time you've put into this. I was wondering if you heard about Allianz Investments Fund taking a $4.2 billion hit catered to U.S. pension funds. I had not. Let's look that sucker up. Shall we? All right, go there. Get rid of the Google Earth. Allianz, 4.2 billion. No, they set aside 4.2 billion for structured lawsuits. Oh. To cover expected settlements with U.S. investors and government officials over the collapse of structured alpha funds. All right. So is this somebody they insured or somebody they... oh, go away. Close. No one wants you. Mismanagement. Okay. So the Arkansas Teacher Retirement Systems, they mismanage their funds, I guess, directly in relation to Structured Alpha. All right. So they are going to be eaten up by a lot there. And they have to do a share buyback program to keep their price up. Interesting. No, I hadn't heard that. Okay. No, well, I mean, they're mismanaging people's funds. They're going to be putting a lot at risk there. Oops. I wonder which person will take the blame for losing them $4.2 billion. Yeah, I don't want to be the guy who, like, your CV is like, I used to work at Allianz. And they're like, why'd you leave? Differences of opinion. Overstock went up today too. Project Sun says. Yeah. CLOV had good earnings. So if we're getting good earnings from these guys, and that's why we're seeing after hours jetting of their stocks. Beat all estimates. Justin Kappa TV. Hi, Houston. Have you read The Story of Civilization by Will and Ariel Durant? Just started the 11-volume set and finding it fascinating. I have not read that. It's a lot of volumes. We'll have to check that out, man. All right. Doobie Wah 420 doesn't AMC earnings and T35 happen on the same day. I don't know. When is AMC earnings? I bet their fourth quarter earnings are going to be fantastic. I think their first quarter earnings are probably going to be garbage. But fourth quarter should be bang up. I don't know what date their earnings are. AMC earnings report. Report earnings on March 1st, after market close. So that is Monday, Tuesday? The first is Tuesday. So Tuesday is going to be theirs. I have no idea when the T35 is. One of those TA people can tell me. Yeah, VW brand says exactly what I said below. AMC will beat all estimates this reported quarter, but next quarter won't pop up. I think next quarter is going to be garbage because Omicron just ravaged the first 6 weeks of the year for sure. And there's not really any good movies being released in January ever. It's like the only way movies in January made any money was if there's like Oscar contenders being shown, or people just were like, fuck it, I'll go watch whatever terrible PG-13 horror film got dumped this month. I have nothing else to do. But with Omicron, people aren't gonna be like, oh, I'm so bored, I'm gonna go pay $12 for this terrible movie. No, they're gonna stay home. So I think first quarter reportings are gonna be pretty terrible. Don, started watching Community. Good call. I teach English at a 2-year. It is as corrupt as New York Fed. In Houston, whatever it is what you want. What I want. Okay. No, Community is brilliant. I spent a lot of time teaching community college and going to community college, and it is a fantasy world that show is based in, but there's so much truth in it, even though it's like exaggerated. I think it's the greatest comedy show ever made. There aren't too many things I can watch 7 or 8 times and just love it every single time. Okay. Matt Simon, Houston, they seem to raise gas prices whenever they want, but the price per gallon that we are paying at the pump is not what they paid to put the gas in the tank. Why are we paying the higher money? Because we only have 3 oil companies and we have a giant cartel. It used to be that oil stations or gas stations were independently owned, and that there were in each state dozens, if not hundreds, of wholesalers of oil. And those have slowly been gobbled up to the point where chains own the gas stations, or the oil companies themselves own the gas stations. And the distributors and wholesalers of gasoline and oil are now controlled by like one company in each state or each region. It used to be that Georgia had the cheapest gasoline in the country for a long time because they had these incredibly competitive laws where there were hundreds of wholesalers of refined gasoline that could be delivered. And so there was a ton of competition. and they had to constantly undersell each other to get the attention of the independent gas stations. And now all those laws have been stripped that protected the competition, and gas in Georgia is just as expensive as anywhere else. It's all antitrust violations, in my opinion. We could have much cheaper gasoline, cheaper oil if we forced competition. But, you know, Exxon isn't just Exxon, it's Exxon Mobil. Why? Because they bought Mobil. Chevron is just Chevron Texaco. Why? Because Chevron bought Texaco. You know, we used to have dozens of oil companies. In my community where I live, 50 years ago, the population was like 2,000 people. There was 2,000 people, and there were 6 gas stations. Now, we're 25,000 people, and there are 2 gas stations. What? It's crazy. There's way more people who need way more gas, but there's now only 2 gas stations when there used to be 6. Because they systematically closed them, one after the other, and they forced everyone into 2. And one of them is independently owned, and the other is owned by a large corporation. And the independently owned one, they keep trying to get to pressure them to close so that they can jack prices up even more at the one gas station we have an option to go buy. It's all about a lack of competition. And yeah, there you go. Okay. Irish Cowboy pretty excited about March 6th for Sears. That's the date Sears and Kmart officially shut it down. Or that'd be 4th Friday, so that'd be a Sunday. Sunday, 2 Sundays from now. All right, let's see what happens on that Monday. Woo! Does that mean they paid off? If they're shutting everything down, they paid off the debts? I don't know. If they want to sell commercial real estate, they probably need to sell it now rather than later, because I think the commercial real estate market is going to be falling off a cliff here, and the longer they wait, the more they're going to be left holding the bag on all that stuff. Okay. DA got the dope hashtag Banks trending on Twitter. That's never good. Okay. Peter Bartow, will 2021-10 pawn shop pass? That's the one where they just sort of take their assets from them and give them a loan to pay off liabilities. Probably. It's just another way of dark pooling those assets. Rather than just being like forcing them to sell everything, you just take them and you give them a loan they can never pay back, and then you just sell the assets anyway. Rambo, First Blood, Part 2, the novelization. Remember when History Channel had the programs about Hannibal and the Punic Wars and World War I? And then it was aliens and pawnbrokers. What gives? Yeah. Like, I wish History Channel would go back to Disney. Go back to doing actual history stuff. I don't understand. Like, leave the crappy reality TV shows, the crappy reality TV shows channels. Some of us want to watch, like, World War II colorized and, you know, learn about, you know, the Fertile Crescent and ancient wars and Celtic times or whatever. Green-Eyed Bandit Elixir. Hi, Houston. First time catching you live. Is there any importance, maybe even symbolically, of Float getting fully DRS'd? Would this create FOMO effect for more retail? Oh, there's a DRS question. You didn't make it. Symbolically, yes. Fundamentally, will it make a difference? I don't think so. I've talked about it in the past. The float has been locked up for other stocks in the past. That did not stop anyone from naked shorting. The only thing that's going to stop people from naked shorting is if they actually stop naked shorting. That's it. Or they build up so much liability and buy and hold doesn't crash the price enough that they're doomed. And they're just forced to buy everything back. And that's what we're waiting for. We're either waiting for them forced to stop naked shorting and to face the repercussions of failures to delivers, or the value of what they're negative on and their margin explodes so much that they're screwed. Those are basically the only 2 ways we're going to get them. And so that's why buy, hold, and wait. Yeah. And the DRS shares, there's Charlie and a couple others are talking about if shares are in DRS, that can work as a location in order to naked sell. It's like, oh, well, there's 5 million shares right there, DRS. I know where they are. I can write that in my little forum, and I can generate 5 million naked shorts. I don't know how accurate that is, but it wouldn't doubt if people are using that, because why not? Some people just like smash the keyboard as to location of shares when they do those things. DEA got that dope. What do you think about freezing bank accounts of common Canadian folks for donating towards FC 2022 without a court order? Nowadays, the right to transact stands on top of many other basic human rights. I mean, it's Canada. Canadian due process is different than American due process, that's for sure. They're not protected by the Bill of Rights or anything else. They have their own constitution, which I'm not an expert on anyway. So is that a violation of Canadian due process? I cannot offer an opinion on that. But if you are giving money towards halting commerce against like public health protocol during a pandemic, you're probably in sort of emergency rules problem territory. Public health emergencies are states of emergency, and if you are hindering if you're hindering public health during a state of emergency, you're probably going to face repercussions. And pandemics are a special situation, and that's why they're pandemics, man. They only happen every once in a while, and the last one we had was 1918, and we had the same people. Masks don't work, and they'd all die. So, like, it's not any different. During smallpox, you had people who were like, I'm not going to get inoculated, and then they would die. During bubonic plagues, and people were supposed to quarantine, stay home. There's in the book The Plague, the author writes about like groups of young men acting as if nothing's going wrong, and they're just playing around the street and having a good old time, and how they're just putting lives at risk, and you can't understand it. But there's always a contingent of the population who just will ignore the things you have to do to end a pandemic, and that's just something we've been facing for like thousands of years now. Filthy New Zealand. Thank you, Filthy New Zealand, for super chat there. Peachy Sunday, Ukrainian internet is down from cyber attack. Shelling might have started in the city of Mariupol. Third World War just started. Oh shit. Let's see what's popping up in the news. Ukraine. While I've been on here, because stuff can move really fast. Ukraine airspace closed commercial air traffic. Eurocontrol says. UN Security Council emergency meeting as Russia looks poised to launch attack in Ukraine at 6 minutes ago. I saw a couple hours ago. Let's see if they say anything about shelling. 1 day ago, 2 days ago. Nothing was updated on the Google thingy. Twitter might be the fastest way that... where's my search bar? There we go. Oops, I can't spell Ukraine. I misspelled Ukraine. That doesn't help. All of a sudden, boom. It's 5 hours ago. Shelling issue in Ukraine. It says he's definitely seeing escalation of firing. Rajangle's always in the middle of like wars. Alleged shelling. This is 10 hours ago. Mariupol, 1 hour ago. So, what we got? Any concussions? I went next. If there's shelling going on, I wouldn't be next to like a glass window. I would definitely want to not at least have that window open so you can equalize the pressure more easily and not lose all your windows. But, interesting. Okay. Well, shit's happening, man. Shit's happening. There's a lot of people that are probably pretty scared, pissed off right now. Okay. Where was that one? William Morgan Bloomberg just confirmed Citadel is one of the hedge funds under investigation by the Department of Justice. Bam. Citadel is organized crime. I said it before. I will say it again. Citadel is organized crime. Precious Sun, what application do you think quantum locking could be used for, considering requires dry ice? Oh yeah, you sent me the quantum locking video. The quantum, it's this crazy levitation that can happen with superconductors. If we can achieve the like the impossible and get ourselves a room temperature superconductor, we could make some pretty cool levitation devices with quantum locking. I know there's lots of DARPA programs that are desperately trying to find a superconductor that works at room temperature. That would be a game changer for energy transmission, insulation, cooling, electrification, all sorts of crazy stuff. I don't know if they can find one, but if they can, that'd be awesome. Yes. Meow Meow. Only 19 million shares of tied for Bbx holders, and Bbx doing the distribution. How high could it go? What is Bbx Float right now? Let's see here. We are market cap is pretty small, 261 million. So there's about 100 million shares. So basically, they're going to be short. The shorts might be short 80 million shares. Damn, son. Yeah, Investor Play says Vinco stock looks scary as it continues acquisition plans. So I think they got money behind them, even though their reported financials are pretty garbage. But they're just acquiring and acquiring and acquiring. They're spacking the SPACs. Yeah, I think Bbx has a chance to go pretty high. Its yearly high was like $12 or something, wasn't it? 1022, 1082 was its high. We had a spike at the $5 in January. We had a spike at $8 or so bucks, and I bought stupidly at $6.30. So I've been eating crow ever since. But yeah, I think they have. I think they're going to have a squeeze happen as a result. They're heavily shorted, like 270% was the reported shorting this past fall. 270% on 100 million shares. So they're short 300 and whatever million shares. That is bad. You don't want to be that short on something that's giving away a special dividend in the form of a new stock, and then not be able to provide that stock. You're going to face share recalls. And all those lenders are going to make them buy them all back. The price is going to spike. So then the prime brokers who had to create synthetics because they sold naked are going to force liquidations happen and more buying. So I think Bbx could definitely do some crazy stuff. Might be good. Maybe tomorrow I'll try to pick up some Bbx calls. Probably be a good idea. And the price has been pretty stable for the last month, so the calls shouldn't be too expensive. There's not too much implied volatility there. So maybe I'll pick up some Bbx calls. That might be pretty good. Filthy New Zealand. If hedge funds don't have to report true short interest and destroy all records, how does this end? The only evidence will be our shares and could take years to investigate. Missed message in first chat. Oops. You're right. The SEC, I think, ultimately needs access to the DTCC computers. That electronic ledger in the DTCC computers that manages all the electronic trading that happens in the stock market will be the thing that tells the tale of who made what, sent them where, who owns what, who generated synthetics. And the SEC may finally have to be like, look, DTCC, you guys have to show it to us. We are requiring you to, or we're going to strip you of everything you have. DTCC is really powerful. They've never had to follow a subpoena before. They've never been punished for ignoring a subpoena, but they may have to in the end show them the books of who did what, when, and where. I think you're right. Otherwise, it may take a long, long time. One flew over the poo-poo's mess. One flew over the poo-poo's nest. Not to get conspiratorial, but do you think Havana Syndrome is really a thing? Really hate to think the concentrated microwaves can be weaponized. There are no non-contact weapons that can do all sorts of things to you. There's sound lasers. You can literally take ultrasonic sounds, funnel them into a straight beam, and you can like make people think their heads are exploding. That stuff exists. You can use microwave lasers and can burn like the one, basically ray guns, and burn the top 1/64th of an inch of people's skin. The Havana Syndrome, the folks that complain about Havana Syndrome, I mean, 60 Minutes, it's like, this is a recording of the sound that was recorded by, so-and-so at the CIA, and it was just a cicada. Like, the cicada is not the enemy weapon. It's just a creature that's really loud and a pain in the ass. I remember my roommate, when I was in school, bought at the farmer's market in Hilo. You go to the flower lady. She gets you a coffee can. It's wrapped beautifully in these like tea leaves or banana leaves. And she gives you a bunch of flowers for like $5. You take the flowers home and you look at them pretty until they die a week or two later. And one of the flower pots she brought home had a cicada in it, making god-awful sound inside the house. It felt like my head was going to explode. And I ripped those flowers apart and I couldn't find it, so I just took all of them and I put them under the tire of my truck and just ran over it a few times. That's the only way I could get rid of that sound. So I know that sound is awful, but that sound is natural. And if you haven't heard a cicada, it's going to seem like someone's trying to split your head open with some sort of crazy evil device. And I think that's what people were trying to blame on Havana Syndrome, and it was just nature, dude. Just nature. Bill Coyne, Russia's broke, costs money to run the invasion army. This invasion stretches out. Could it break them? Especially if they have no access to all their offshore funds. It sounds like they have a list of wealthy Russians, and they're just going to freeze the accounts of every single solitary one of them. Putin has tried to combat this by dumping a whole bunch of money into gold and holding piles of gold, because if the economy collapses, gold value goes up. But if they can't move the gold or sell the gold, except via black markets, they're not going to get premium dollars for it. And it's really hard to move that much gold. So if your borders are essentially closed off and your ships can't make it out of many ports, and you can't get hard currencies and your bank accounts are frozen, it's gonna be rough, man. It's gonna be rough. Meow meow. After Moas, I'm gonna hire Dookie Wipers to clean my kitties and make a video and tag Griffin's name to it so he can see what I'm doing with his money. Do you want a Dookie Wiper, monkey? Huh? You don't need a Dookie Wiper. You know who needs Dookie Wipers? English Bulldogs. You gotta wipe those little booties because they can't get back there and clean it themselves. If you have an English Bulldog, you gotta wipe its butt. There's your nature fact for the day. Okay. So how far am I? I'm exactly an hour behind in the chat. It's a lot of questions in the pre-chat here that I got to. Okay. Voodoo Fighter, have you been listening to Pi-Fi Gurk lately? Tomorrow is going to be another one of those days when you said you should have spent $700 on options. You would have made moolah. Anyway, what's Reg Show? Reg Show is a crappy loophole law created in 2005 that said you're not allowed to naked short unless you can locate shares somewhere to eventually purchase if you're forced to. And the regulations for location did not require you to establish any sort of contract. It just said that, yes, I know this person here has shares, therefore I can generate all the naked shares I want. And that's all the law said. And it really basically allowed like a wink and a nod handshake, like naked shirt, all you want. And hedge funds just went bonkers with it. Yeah, that's Reg Show. Okay. Bullish on Houston's second intro. I assume they asked the client how aggressive they want their money to be invested. If so, why would Michael Jordan take that risk? Michael Jordan loves to gamble, and he loves to play golf, and he loves to play golf with Gabe Plotkin. And my guess is Plotkin sold him all sorts of things, and Michael Jordan was like, I'm a betting man, slap, and just threw down $1 billion. And that's probably how he became a member of Melvin. Oh, chat just reset again. Dope. Okay. We're scooting back up here. Scooting back up. And, well, that cut me off of a huge chunk of the chat. So there we go. That forces me to get ahead. Sorry if I missed your chats between 6:14 and 6:30. They're gone now. I can't see them. Persia's son has got the he has a small wee backwards line there. William Morgan CLOV is heavily shorted and has synthetics. Thousands of stocks are being heavily shorted. Yes, there are just so many stocks that are involved in there. I don't really think we can pit one against the other. They're all shorted. Especially ones that were in the same ETF baskets as GameStop. GameStop is just the one that exploded first because it was the one that got the attention first and got the most initial investment has had the highest retained value since then. And, they're going somewhere. They're expanding their markets and they're moving into new realms and they've got a lot of cash. And so it's terrible to be short on a company that has a lot of money and a lot of potential upside. Okay. BW Brand, my credit union has a flat fee of $1 a month. You earn more than that with interest. There you go. That's good because most banks have really terrible minimum balances. And if you don't meet the minimum balance, then they take even more money out of your account, and you meet the minimum balance even less, which to me seems like that should be a crime. There's a $300 minimum balance in your account, and you only have $10 in there. So we're going to take that last $10 as a punishment for not having the other $290 that we need to have in your account. That stuff is garbage. The banks should be thankful they have any money in an account with them, and they shouldn't punish you. And if I had a magic wand, I would vaporize every human being who ever created any of those banking fees. Banks are supposed to give you money. You entrust your money with them, and they should be grateful for it. They should thank you. Be like, oh, thank you so much for entrusting all of your money with me. Here's a bunch of benefits I'm going to give you because you are letting me have access to all this cash I can use on my various investments and loans and everything else I make cash from. Instead, you're like, here's my money. And your bank's like, fuck you, give me more. And that does not sit well with me as a consumer. I think if we had more banks and smaller banks, there'd be more competition, and those banks would be forced to give you higher interest rates for your deposits and to be nicer to you. Instead, we have like 4 banks, and they're all just complete assholes. King Kong investor, who keeps track of all the shorts, and why don't they release to the public what the number of shorts are, including naked shorts? Because they don't have to. We don't have any transparency laws. The only transparency rules that exist is the voluntary reporting of short positions via the folks who lent the short positions. And in 3 years, in 2025, we should have a requirement that says every single short position, whether it's a lender or a short hedge fund or anyone who shorted a stock, has to update every 15 minutes as to what their position is and keep it in basically real time. But we're not going to see that until 2025, which means it's not going to play a role until then. So I hope MOAS happens long before then. Otherwise, here I'm sitting on YouTube in 2025 with a beard down to my lap, going, "One of these days, the MOAS is going to happen." I want it to be much sooner than that. just let me go sit in a hammock on a beach in Portugal or something. Let's go, man. Apollo God, Houston, my bank is closing all debit accounts soon. It's an English bank. I asked the rep today why they are. He said it's because it would cost the bank too much money to keep open. Sure, Mr. Bank, sure. Never believe a bank when it says something costs too much money. Banks are sitting on so much money right now, they can do anything they want. They're sitting on so much money right now that the Federal Reserve in the United States has to take trillions of dollars from them because they have too much money. It's too much of a liability for them. So they're doing reverse repo and giving them like treasuries and telling them to shut up and give them money. So banks have too much cash. Too much. Okay. Aaron Salentine, can you explain the metamaterial squeeze? Only dividend comes out. Okay, so Metamaterial is a Canadian company that does like nanotechnology stuff based out of Canada. They went public in March of 2020, like 2 days after the entire world shut down. And their main product they were launching was a pair of glasses for pilots that block laser light from 12-year-olds trying to dazzle pilots. March 2020 saw the world shut down and people stopped flying planes. So the big launch of their product went nowhere because people weren't flying planes. And their stock cratered right off the bat. Just... And as a result of that cratering right off the bat, they're like, oh shit, that did not work well. We need to figure out a new scheme. And CEO George, he's kind of a wheeler and dealer. And he went looking essentially for a SPAC or an American exchange-listed company on NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange. And he found Torchlight. Torchlight was an oil company that has a bunch of oil leases, but didn't have the cash to actually exploit oil wells because, again, the economy collapsed, the shutdown happened, people weren't driving, they weren't flying, and oil prices fell off a cliff. The oil lands that Torchlight had, it's the minimum price for oil to make any profit is $57 a barrel for those lands, and the oil was well below that. And so they're about to be delisted from the NASDAQ because their stock price had dropped too low and they weren't earning any money. So NASDAQ's like, hey, in the year, you're gone. And so George went to Torchlight and said, hey, you want to merge? We'll sell off all your oil crap and your stock becomes metamaterial on the NASDAQ. And the Torchlight guys were like, yeah, because this company isn't going anywhere. And so they agreed to this merger last fall or winter, 2020, I believe. And the idea was that, Torchlight becomes metamaterial, and they offer a special dividend to all the folks who held metamaterial because it'd sell off all the property, and there might be $1 or $2 per person who had it per share, and that was what the plan they came up with. Well, come to June 2020, when the merger is about to happen, and everyone realizes, holy crap. The short hedge funds have shorted the hell out of this stock because they thought the stock was going to go to zero and get delisted and they're going to make a fortune. They didn't expect a Canadian nanotechnology company to assume them and be listed on the New York Stock Exchange, on the NASDAQ, sorry. And so the price skyrocketed because they were heavily short, and the price on metamaterial went to like $20 in Canada. Torchlight went to $11 or so, and then they merged and the Torchlight shares became metamaterial shares, and all the folks that had Torchlight prior to the date of record got these MMTLP shares in their accounts. And there you go. Now the MMTLP shares, there's a clause that says if you get to the 1st of January and you haven't given your dividend yet, those shares have to be turned into a new company. And so they got to the 1st of January, and they hadn't managed an oil sale yet. So those are going to become Oil Co. And the folks at MetaMaterial do not want to run an oil company. They have no interest in running an oil company. They're now a technology company. That's all they care about. They want to sell these assets. But now, oil is worth a fortune and going even higher. We're around $100 a barrel. Projections are in the near future might see $150 a barrel, which means whoever buys that oil land that's for sale could make $100 per barrel in just profit. And there's thought to be billions of barrels of oil in that land, which could mean hundreds of billions of dollars in wealth. So, if that oil land gets sold, it's going to be sold at a premium now. So you make much more than $1 or $2 off every one of those MMTLP shares. You might make tens of dollars off those MMTLP shares when that land sells. And all those MMTLP shares represent shorted Torchlight shares, and Torchlight shares have become metamaterial shares. And if you short a company, you are responsible for paying the dividend to the person you shorted to. So if I bought a synthetic share of stock from someone and that company offers a dividend, I don't get a dividend from the company. I get a dividend from the company that shorted it, from the hedge fund that shorted it. I get a payment in lieu, a PIL. And oftentimes, dividends 10 cents or whatever, and the hedge fund can reach in their pockets and give the 10 cents per share. They don't care. But if they shorted Torchlight to the tune of 1 billion shares, right, and the dividend ends up being like $20 a share, that's $20 billion they've got to come up with in those payment in lieus, and they won't have that cash. So when they can't pay the payment in lieus, the brokers who had to create those synthetics for the fake shares that got sold, they will be forced to liquidate the assets of the hedge funds to make up for that $20 loss on every single solitary share that the hedge funds have. The people who lent them shares to sell, if they don't get their $20, they are forced to do share recalls and ask for all their shares back, which can force liquidation of those hedge funds as well. So if the Torchlight dividend is significant, the MMTLP dividend, Oil Co. is significant, then it's going to force buying of metamaterial stock to make up for all the stock they shorted on Torchlight years earlier. And that's the weird place that we are in with metamaterials. So there you go. There's your synopsis. Okay, Jethro. If Citadel's organized crime, you think they have ties to Putin? Super tinfoil hat. But OPEC's action for GME is left to last day. He invades right before Jethro. Yeah. I bet he's got ties to Eastern Bloc. I mean, we've seen it before. When an American oligarch gets in trouble and they're facing, obliteration from bankruptcy or whatever, they've often run to the arms of the Eurasian mafia, the Russian mafia. Donald Trump got wiped out in the 90s because he made a whole bunch of horrible bets. He's the only person in the world that can lose money at gambling. And his, yards building and all that stuff just collapsed. All his investments collapsed in the 90s. And he was billions of dollars in the hole. His resurgence came from money from Russian mafia members. The Trump Soho, which was built during while the Apprentice was going on. Trump Soho came from, was it Dmitry Firtash, Felix Sater, and the Kazakhstani mafia dude who got busted like trafficking girls. Basically, it's like three big Russian mafia dudes who have big ties to the Kremlin are the ones that finance Trump Soho. Felix Sater was Trump Toronto. So Trump Toronto was built entirely with Russian mafia money from Sater. Sater is essentially the Don of the entire Eurasian mafia. Like, he might be more powerful than Putin even. I can't tell which one answers to whom. Right? Like, Putin may be the king of Sater, and Sater may be the king of Putin, but not sure. Anyway, that money, Trump Soho. You've got guys like what's his name? The big building that was in West Palm Beach that Trump had bought. It was the most expensive house in America, and they sold it at a huge loss when he was facing foreclosure in Chicago. What do I put in? Trump expensive house, Palm Beach, 90 million? Is that how much it was for? Oh, here we go. This is it. All right. So, this Palm Beach mansion was this giant weird spec house that, get the hell out of my way, that Trump bought at a ridiculous price. And he was facing foreclosure on Trump Chicago because he was behind on payments for bonds. And so Dmitry Rybolovlev paid a super premium on this piece of property and just tore the house down. Why? Because the Russians need to get money out of Russia and into hard currency real estate, into London, into Vancouver, into Toronto, into New York, into Florida. They like to take their money out of the country. They can buy with cash. They can buy through shell corporations. They can buy through intermediaries, and they get this cash out of Russia and into hard currency places, so that if the shit hits the fan in Russia, they've got an out. They've got their money somewhere. And so, these very powerful Russians were buying up Trump condos like crazy. Entire developments in Florida that Trump did were almost all bought by Russian mafia connected folks. A lot of the condos that have been sold recently in original Trump Tower in New York are owned by mafioso. What was the dude that he got busted running a casino in Trump Tower, and he's the one that was like Trump's guide at the Miss Worlds in 2013 in Moscow. The one where the PP tape supposedly was recorded. What was that guy's name? Trump, Moscow, 2013, gambling, Trump Tower. That's probably enough there. Okay. This one. Okay. So, what was his name? Here we go. Yeah, this guy. I can never say his name right. Almazan Toktak. He was running an illegal casino inside his condo at Trump Tower. And he was also the guy that took Trump and his family to the Miss Universe competition and was like sort of his guide, introduced him to, various powerful figures while over there. These folks, when they run into trouble and they're massively in debt and they're going to lose their lifestyle, there's a window of some gray area criminality that can happen as a result of a lot of money coming out of the former Soviet states. And I wouldn't doubt if Citadel, when they were facing obliteration, they had to reach out and probably have some unscrupulous investors. But would you rather lose money to some trust fund dork from Long Island who invested in your hedge fund? You'd be like, oh, sorry, Chetworth III, your money's gone. He's like, oh, that sucks. Or lose money of some scary mafia don from Kazakhstan who runs a private army. Like, when you take on the responsibility of managing the cash for these really, really scary Russian mafia dudes, you are stepping into a world that you cannot return from. And so there may be some absolutely scary, scary, scary things that can happen when you lose their money. That's, right? I would not want to be that person whose private plane keeps showing up in places like Bulgaria and Romania and whatever else. Right? I wouldn't want to be that guy. I wouldn't want to be that guy at all. Okay. That was my Squeeze question. Razzle Dazzle 618. Houston is so misled politically, it's genuinely unbelievable. Razzle Dazzle, eat a dick. There you go. If you could prove me wrong, you would have written so in your chat. Okay. Apparently, from the chat, everyone's saying Russia's invading Ukraine. You guys are getting more. You guys have more ability to like surf the news while listening to me than I have the ability to surf the news and talk at the same time. Yeah. So, my guess is we're gonna have even more red tomorrow if this is the case. Mike Millspaw, do you think it would have been appropriate for Oregon Governor Kate Brown to authorize the same emergency powers against Antifa rioters that were implemented by Justin Trudeau against peaceful truckers? The Antifa folk weren't the ones who started riots in Portland. That is one of the biggest misconceptions. The Antifa folk in Portland live in Portland. They're from Portland. But anytime there's a rally of any kind, a bunch of rednecks from outside of Portland that are members of the Proud Boys and the Neo-Nazis and Patriot Prayer and those groups, they come to Portland and start cracking skulls. All of the riots were started not by Antifa people, but were started by far-right Proud Boy assholes. And that's the way it was. The cops in Portland, there's video footage of like there's a curfew, right? There's a 10 p.m. curfew. Everyone's has to be off the streets, and the cops are cracking skulls of hippies, and they walk up to some Proud Boys like, "Hey guys, you might want to go inside that building because there's a curfew right now." Why? Because those are their buddies. That's who. There's been a problem of white supremacy in police forces. The FBI's been talking about it for 20 years, and they're all about cracking hippie skulls. That's why a lot of them became cops. And why a lot of them are members of the Proud Boys, and why a lot of them got busted trying to break into the Capitol on January 6th. That's what they do. I mean, if you are a complete sociopath and can avoid prosecution of any kind and commit almost any crime you want and get away with it, you're going to become a police officer. And there are good cops out there, but I've not met many of them. Most of the cops I've interaction with have been just awful people. And I've got a couple of buddies who are cops, and I will trust those two guys, but their coworkers, no, I don't trust their coworkers very much at all. The cops in my town ran protection for an illegal brothel, and when the brothel got discovered, they basically protected them and got them out of town without the feds arresting. The cops in my town trafficked underage teen girls through an illegal speakeasy bar. And their little organized crime outfit fell apart because one of the police officers shot a mentally disabled man through a door, lied and said the man was coming after him with an axe when he wasn't, and then wouldn't let the EMTs save him. They wouldn't let him inside, so the man slowly bled to death over hours. The cop had a problem. It was that the man he killed was the brother-in-law of the head of the FBI for my region. And so that investigation happened, and they discovered he lied. The forensics went in, and that cop had come from Los Angeles where he had shot somebody. And Los Angeles LAPD was like, look, you either can resign or we got to charge you for this crime. And so he became a police officer in my region. And because that crime, they tried to cover up the shooting of that man, resulted in the hiring of a new police chief who was like this no-nonsense Mormon guy who just cleaned house and fired everyone. And that's the only thing that stopped this essentially criminal organization that was my local police department that was trafficking women and running protection for brothels. All because they accidentally killed a relative of an FBI agent. And that's it. If that man his brother-in-law hadn't been the head of the FBI for the field office out here, all those same cops will still be on the job today. And it's just the way it goes. Like, a lot of folks will gravitate to that position, man. Okay. Hey, Dave's in here. El Dangeroso. I had to choose between watching you and Sinead O'Connor's song. I think I made the right choice. Sheesh. I wish YouTube would just let me know when you're doing your thing. Well, El Dangeroso, if you're still on here, man, he's in... you should watch his channel when he makes videos. They're funny. Go to El Dangeroso's channel. He basically does these long walks around the world. He was doing the Triple Crown last year. He's doing this Camino through Brazil right now, and he just makes really funny little travel videos, and I highly recommend you check out his stuff. My goal was with my ill-fated treasure hunt was I was going to hide clues along Dave's route, doing like the Continental Divide Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail or something, and he was going to show folks those I got a little creature trying to live on my desk. He was going to like read those clues people and help drive traffic to Dave's channel, but I fucked up and my treasure got found in like 2 days. Anyway, El Dangeroso, Dave Garrison, fantastic travel writer, adventurer extraordinaire, and a man who's probably walked more miles than almost any human being you've ever known. He's awesome. He is awesome. All right, hi, buddy. Yes, hello. You want to come say hi to everybody? What you want to do? Yeah, you can come up. Come on. Yes, the monkey butt wants to say hi. All right. Okay, so I'm only an hour behind in the chat, so Dave might be asleep by now. I don't know. Hope your trail walking in Brazil, the pictures are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. See if I can do, where would I get the link for Dave's thing? Click on his name, click on El Dangeroso in the chat there, and you should be able to see his website. YouTube. El Dangeroso. El Dangeroso. Is that it? There we go. That's the one. Okay. That's his channel. I click there. Copy that. Go here. So Dave was my first roommate in Hawaii. We met in a youth hostel when no one would rent a house to us. As a white dude in Hilo who's new to town, a lot of people doesn't want to rent to you. So Dave and I ended up living in this Hare Krishna commune, which was just a nightmare. Those people were so weird. It was the Tulsi Gabbard side of the Hare Krishnas, the Butler group, the cult, and those people were weird and basically like the mafia of their own. They had this farm where they grew noni, and they would ferment noni in like this giant vat under my window, and it just smelled so terrible. But noni juice sells for a fortune. You can sell it to hippies, and you can sell it to like people in Asia for $100 a gallon, and they make just a fortune off of that. And then all that money would go to Chris Butler, who was in charge of the Hare Krishnas in Hawaii, and he clamped down on those people. With an iron fist. They did exactly what he told them to do. Yeah, so if you want to know who rules Tulsi Gabbard, it's a weirdo named Chris Butler, who is her cult leader. And everything you do, if you are a member of that Hare Krishna sect, you do to make Chris Butler money. And if you don't make him some money, he's going to crack some skulls. It is a crazy, crazy, crazy cult. Chekuseki, looks like attack in Ukraine has started. Oh, shit. Okay, that must be popping up on the news here. Ukraine, let's get the news here. 12 minutes ago, Biden condemns Putin attack on Ukraine. Okay, that sounds like it's happening. I wonder if we got any satellite feeds coming out. Ukraine crisis, live news, Putin sanctions. Russian president called Ukrainian troops to lay down their arms, addressed his nation at 5:50 a.m. in Moscow. Okay, sounds like it's happening. So, chalk one up to the metadata and cell phones getting it right again. Twitter accounts sharing video from Ukraine are being suspended when they're needed most. Interesting. All right. Shit's happening, man. It's getting real over there. Well, shit. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to have to skip an hour's worth of chats. I'm going to try scrolling down and seeing what's happening here in the last few minutes of the show for the evening. Got 15 minutes left. Javi Ace is crypto taking a dive. I bet it is. It was not doing very well today to begin with. Whoops. Where are we now? That's SPY. I don't want to look at SPY. I want to look. Oh, yes. Dogecoin dropped below 12 cents. Litecoin below 100. Zcash is almost below 90. Bitcoin 35,000. Ethereum at 2,400. Yeah, after hours, down 10%. Jesus, that's cratering hard. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be red. That is, oof. No me gusta. Man, and VIX went up another 4% after hours. That's crazy. Goodness gracious. It's coming, man. It's starting. It's gonna be a lot of red, dude. And yeah, see that one. Gold is gonna go through the roof. I bet gold prices are bonk. Let's look at gold prices on here. Let's go to gold prices. Where is Kitco? There it is. All right. Oh, we're gonna break 2,000. That's for sure. Yeah, we're gonna break 2,000 in no time. Probably by Friday, be my guess. I think gold will break 2,000. I get some drops right now. What the heck? Why would an Earth would be dropping? People should be. They might not have cash to buy right now. When they clear out some red tomorrow, they'll be jumping in and doing some more buying. But it's climbed quite a bit. It's up $20 or so in the last couple of days. Go away, Kitco. Yeah. It's going to go up. It's definitely going to go up. Billcoin live news. Putin announces military operation in eastern Ukraine. Warns other nations of consequences if they interfere. Yep. We'll see how long Putin can last at this. I don't know. I think that one Twitter user was right. You just offer a European passport to every single solitary soldier to abandon their post, and it'll be over like that. I heard they're going house to house and conscripting people in eastern Ukraine to join. Being like, hey, you get to join. That's right. There you go. Wide Mafia across the road. He forgot about it. Oh, man. Dow futures down 700 points already. Ooh, that's big. Yeah. I need to call my mom scene Big Short. Whew. Okay. Yeah, I think you're right, Joseph. I think tomorrow's gonna be red all across the board. If you can, get puts in everything. Get puts on everything. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, maybe not click on right click on Dave's El Dangeroso's profile if you want to see cool little travel videos from him around the world. He does a good job, man. Does a really good job. New Revolution 105. Houston, what does a super ionic state of matter look like? They say the Earth's core is like that. Yeah. Basically, you got free electrons just floating around everywhere. They're not bound to any one atom, any one nucleus. And that's when you get essentially they act sort of like superconductors or highly conductive materials. So the sun is completely ionized. Not a single electron is attached to any of the atoms because the energy levels are beyond escape velocity for those atoms. And so electrons just float everywhere. The sun is a giant ball of plasma, and it's rotating. It has a huge magnetic field as a result of all those like rotating free electrons. Jupiter and Saturn have gigantic magnetic fields because under pressure, when you get hydrogen under incredible pressure, it becomes this thing called liquid metallic hydrogen, which is a superconductor because that's under like millions of times the pressure of the Earth's atmosphere. 3 million pounds per square inch or something ridiculous like that is what it needs to create. And it becomes like a metallic state. Like electrons in a metal are shared across the metal. That's why they're so conductive. And that liquid metallic hydrogen acts like a superconductor. So as Jupiter or Saturn quickly rotate, it's moving this electrical charge. When you have an electrical charge that moves, it creates a magnetic field. So they have gigantic magnetic fields. The Earth doesn't have liquid metallic hydrogen. What the Earth has is a giant molten metal core. And the giant molten metal core came from what I call goo ball Earth. So when a planet's first forming, hi buddy, when a planet's first forming, and you got all these asteroids and comets and things are smacking into each other, and the planets run into stuff as it's orbiting and just gathering material. All these impacts make everything really, really hot because a lot of energy goes into them. And the entire planet becomes this basically big droplet of molten magma. And when you've got a liquid, it allows differentiation to happen. So all the heavy materials can sink towards the center of gravity, and all the lighter materials float to the top. And you can do an experiment at home. You can, take 2 buckets and put ping pong balls at the bottom of one bucket and fill it with sand. Fill another bucket with sand and put 2 big ball bearings on top. And if you take your wife's vibrator and you stick it in that sand and go, the metal balls will end up sinking to the bottom and the ping pong balls will float to the top. And that's differentiation. So you've got all these atoms moving around because it's a liquid. All the heavy stuff will manage to flow through and concentrate in the center, and all the light stuff will float to the top. And so that's why, the molten core of the Earth is like 15 grams per cubic centimeter, but the rock at the surface is only 3.5 grams per cubic centimeter. All light, fluffy stuff up top, all the dense stuff in the middle, that's dense stuff is heavy metals. And it's under incredible pressure, and it also has a bunch of radioactive decay happening inside that magma. And that keeps it really warm, and it keeps it so warm that the electrons are no longer bound to the individual atoms inside that molten goo. And as Earth rotates, it creates a moving electric field, which then creates a gigantic magnetic field. And that work? That work for you, No Revolution? I hope so. Okay. All right, I got 7-10 minutes left here. Apollo God, you can sell short and buy puts and make money in the bear market for sure. Yeah, if this stuff keeps going down, definitely. That's future. Yeah, Vindicator futures are going to be definitely blood red now. Now that we've confirmed that Putin is at war. When a superpower goes to war like this, it's going to make everything shake out until people know what the heck's going on. Okay. Okay. BTC small pump, crypto dives, liquidity dries up, MOAS, very possibly. If assets under management keep collapsing like this, they might not have too many plays they can maneuver to build liquidity and not get margin called. Explosions recorded in Kiev. That must mean they're launching rockets or something. If things are getting to Kiev. Kiev's pretty far in the center. I do wonder if, like, how many agents Putin has throughout the country whose job it is now to, like, sabotage and cause problems. Probably quite a few. Yeah. In Kaufberg, we just funded Russia's war through crypto. That's probably one of the biggest funding sources because there's that Russian law that says you cannot scam Russians. Well, you can scam anyone outside of Russia. And so all those ransomware attacks, cyber attacks, stealing things from open sea or people's wallets. Those hijackings, a lot of those are Russians, and that's Russian mafia that's doing that stuff. They're getting a piece of every single solitary one of those things. And a lot of that crypto is definitely tied to Russian interests for sure. Definitely. Different lime. War was not how I wanted MOAS to start, but I guess here we are. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Different war started when they took the buy button away. Yeah. Okay. Man, this stuff's gonna be wild. I'm really curious to see what happens at 1 a.m. my time when the pre-market opens up, and just how brutal it's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty gnarly. Project Sun says live Ukraine Security Council, unmedia.org. Okay, so that's happening. And we should go and see what's happening there. Security Council, it'll be interesting to see what the Security Council says, because you have 40 members of the Security Council and 5 permanent members. Those 5 permanent members have veto power. And Russia and China, 2 of those members, and they can veto any action from Security Council. So Security Council says, hey, we need to send in peacekeepers in this region. If China and Russia say no, they can't send in peacekeepers. So that whole veto power of the Security Council is pretty brutal, and actually achieving anything other than just like using that veto power to maintain one's own interests. Yeah. Goodness gracious. So yeah, reports explosions are rocking Kiev. Oof. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good at all. Yeah. All right. Alex Park, Houston, I finally got a job today. Combined some GME at a steady pace. Could use another dip, not gonna lie. You might get one. You might get some dips coming up, because I think everything's just gonna go while people are trying to shake stuff out. The hedge funds are, if the Dow and S&P are dropping, hedge funds are gonna have to short the shit out of meme stocks. Otherwise, they're gonna face margin calls. So they're gonna try and force everything down while they can. That's the future I think we're looking forward to here. Yeah, and they're definitely gonna use the war to trigger a red market. That's for sure, because they need something. I mean, CBS News posted like, "Oh, actions in Ukraine are causing inflation in America." Inflation in America was happening long before Ukraine. They're just looking for any excuse they can to put the blame on that, and that's kind of where we're sitting right now. They're looking for anybody that can attach this blame to. It's just the fact that we have a completely under-regulated market, and that bites us in the ass every single time. So, yeah. Yep. Bitcoin home prices are going to take a kick to the nuts. Probably. Yep. So. Okay. Yeah, and you know they'll launch. They'll definitely launch while like the rest of the United States is asleep, especially the power centers on the East Coast. They're probably pulling all-nighters right now at the Pentagon, and interesting, and I have no idea what my sister does. I'm not allowed to know what she does. I just know that she's in naval intelligence, and she's been called up to go do 6 months tour at some facility, and she's leaving soon to go do that, and I may have to take care of her dog while she's gone. So then maybe a second dog, a bouncy, happy, gigantic monster of a dog that will be here for a bit if I don't find somebody else to watch him. But she's probably analyzing all sorts of things right now, doing her analyzing stuff. That is her job. I'm very curious to see how this plays out. I don't think Russia can afford a prolonged action in some place the size of Ukraine. They can do things in like Chechnya, in Georgia, where the population's smaller, the land area is less, the country's poorer, the population is much more easy to subjugate. But Ukraine has had steady economic growth. They've got a decent sized military. They have a lot of goodwill in the international scene. They're going to make it really rough. Slav on Slav wars are brutal. They're absolutely brutal. It's just, ugh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's 8 o'clock on my side. I have to go. My mom, whose hip doesn't work, I've got to go take her trash out. So I got to go do that before she goes to bed. So I got to go do that little run. Everyone be well. Keep updated on the news. Watch the markets when it starts to be past midnight and see just what stuff are going bonkers. I think it's going to be really red tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to show. Maybe I can squeeze one in if the news gets really bonkers, a short one in the afternoon. Otherwise, look for me on Friday. And Monkey Butt and I will be here to greet everybody on Friday for sure. Maybe for a small bit tomorrow. But that'll be it for us. That's all I got today. That's all I got. So let's not have wars. Let's all live well and be happy. And pet your dogs and hug your loved ones and do all that stuff. All right. Sound cool? All right. And peace out, Girl Scouts.